Hey, it's Mark Lanier with your video thought for the day. So this week I'm asking the question, what's God doing in the lives of some biblical characters? And today I want to talk about the biblical character Peter. Now, Peter was one of Jesus's closest followers. He was part of the inner circle. He was the inner part of the inner circle. And Jesus had called him from the Sea of Galilee, or Lake Gennesaret, where Peter was a fisherman, which means likely the son of a fisherman, comes from a fisher's family. And Jesus said, you drop your nets, you change your career path right now, you come with me. And to a 30-year-old or so, that's a big thing. You come with me and I'm going to make you a fisher of men. And for 3 years, Peter walked with Jesus closely. He had moments of incredible clarity, hearing the Spirit of God, like in Matthew 16, where God says to Peter, or to his disciples, Jesus says to him, who do you say that I am? And Peter's the one who said, you are the Christ, the Messiah. You're the Son of the living God. And Jesus says, blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah. Flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but my Father who's in heaven. You're hearing the voice of God. And then later in the same chapter, Jesus says, I'm going to go to Jerusalem. I'm going to be betrayed. I'm going to die. Peter says, no, don't let that happen. And Jesus has to say, get behind me, Satan. Peter, you're not hearing the voice of God on this one. You're hearing the voice of the enemy. This is God's plan. And sure enough, Jesus goes to Jerusalem, and as the betrayal is about to happen, and Jesus says it, Peter, who doesn't have a filter on his mouth, it seems, Peter says, oh Lord, no, I'll take a bullet for you. I'll stand between you and death. I'm not going to let this happen to you. And Jesus says, actually, you're going to betray me 3 times before the rooster crows at the break of dawn. And Peter says, no. Everything may happen, but that'll never happen. Well, sure enough, Jesus is betrayed by Judas, and it's a long night, and it's an ordeal. And Peter's following from a distance and watching Jesus as he gets hauled in front of the ruling authorities within Judaism, and then hauled in front of Pilate and the Roman authorities. And as Peter's watching from a distance outside with a fire burning, it was a cold night, somebody says, hey, you're one of the guys who is with Jesus. Peter says, no, I'm not. They said, yeah, I saw you. You were one of those guys. Peter says, no, I don't know the guy. They said, I think you were one of the guys. And a third time, Peter, with almost cussing in his mouth, says, no, I'm not one of them. And right then the rooster crows. And Peter realizes that Jesus had correctly prophesied that he would betray Jesus. The scripture says that Peter went and he wept bitterly. He didn't have a chance to make it right with God. He didn't have a chance to make it right with Jesus. He didn't have a chance to say, I'm sorry. He didn't have a chance to say, I didn't mean it. He didn't have a chance to say, I just got caught up in the moment. He just was by himself weeping, and no doubt praying, but just torn up inside. Jesus is betrayed, he is beat, he's spat upon, he's mocked, he's called before the Roman authorities, and Pilate delivers him to be crucified. He falls down under the weight of carrying his own cross, having been lashed repeatedly in ways that would have cut to the bone. And it was brutal, and he died a vicious death on a cross. And Peter never got to make it right. But you know, the story didn't end with Jesus in the tomb. Jesus was resurrected. And Peter's one of the ones who heard about it and ran to the tomb. Didn't understand why the burial clothes were there, but there was no body. Didn't understand why the stone had been rolled away when there were Roman guards who, under threat of death, were there to prevent such from happening. And when Jesus first appeared, as the story is told in the Gospel of Mark, which is a story that church history teaches us Peter, that's the gospel that Peter was responsible for. That's a story that came out of Peter's lips. And Mark wrote that for Peter. And when you read in Mark chapter 16 about the resurrection of Jesus, Jesus appeared and sent a message out. He said, I want you to go tell the disciples and Peter that I've been resurrected. I wonder how Peter handled that. Was Peter thinking, how am I going to handle this with Jesus? He's now resurrected and I'm the one who betrayed him? Or at least 3 times, denied knowing him, denied him. I don't know how Peter handled that, but I do know how Jesus handled it when he saw Peter. He loved him. He commissioned him. He told him to look after the sheep of Jesus. He helped him fish. Jesus was the kind, forgiving, caring, good shepherd to Peter that he wanted Peter to be with everybody else. So here's the question. God, what are you doing in my life? Peter might have asked. And God's answer is pretty clear. I'm forgiving you and I'm giving you purpose because I love you. And that answer applies to me and that answer applies to you. That's your video thought for the day.